everyone, welcome to Joe and Zach's Survival. I know a bunch of you that follow the videos at the tent, you've seen a lot of changes and stuff that have went on there. And next to the wood stove up there, there's a cabinet, and that I keep maps in there. I got magazines, batteries, stuff like that. In fact, right here you can take a look at it. Okay, so that little storage thing was built, I did it that first year at the tent, so I don't exactly know when it was, but I'd like to make it a little bit bigger and make it out of the same wood that I made that table that's in the tent. And so I'm going to take these raw boards here and we're going to go through this little project and see what we end up with. When I was at the tent last time, I took some rough measurements because I wanted basically the same size, just a little bit wider and maybe a little bit deeper. But this is what I'm going to start with right here. I've got my different dimensions that I know what will fit in there. My one little bin with my first aid kit fits in here and stuff like that. So this is what we're going to start with. These are the boards that we're going to use, the beginning of them. These boards actually, I've done a lot of projects with these, and I actually drove from here in middle Minnesota all the way down to Kentucky and picked up a whole, that was years ago, but I picked up like the equivalent of a 4 foot by 4 foot by this long of a board, just random lengths, and they come right off the sawmill. So they're not sanded or anything like that, but when we get done they should look pretty good. Okay, so the first thing I've done now is I want this thing to be about 32 inches wide, so I've cut these boards roughly to 34. I'm not going for the super rustic look. I want to cut these edges square. I'm going to run them through the planer to get smooth edges, and I'm going to clamp these and glue them together. But I had to cut 3 of them because I want to be 14 inches wide, and 2 just wouldn't do it. And once I cut all these raw ends off, it'll get smaller. So anyway, this is where we start. Usually, I would bring this over. My dad has a planer that'll surface plane these. I don't have one here, then that's up at his shop at his cabin. So we're going to have to just sand this out by hand, but it's not that big of a deal. This isn't that huge of a project. But those planers work so nice. So one of the first things I have to do on this is I have to run it through my planer. This one here is it'll plane on one side, or it's a joiner if I put it up. I'm going to use the joiner part of it here, or use it as a joiner, and I've got to get one flat side on that board so I can glue them together, and then from that flat side I can measure off as much as I can before that wood gets real bad, and then cut it off and run the other side through the joiner. Working with some of these boards is like this one doesn't have any edge that's square, so you have to just go ahead and create your own edge, trying to get it as square as you can, and then just go from there. You can see the 3 boards here that equal about 14 inches. They're all joined on one side. They're all rough yet and everything, and I wanted to leave character. I wanted knots. I want it to be really crude looking. And you know, you can go around and switch sides and see which one you like better and everything like that. So now I have to get these clamped and glued, and then after they dry and everything, then I can go through and sand these down. so now we've got that top done, and this is going to be one of the sides. And so I'm going to go ahead and do the next side, and that one will be ready to glue as well. Alright, so I've got all my pieces cut now, but one of the boards, one of the sets of boards that are going to be aside is a little bit wider than the other ones, and instead of having to sand it all down, because I've got to get rid of about 1/8 of an inch, I'm going to get most of it with the planer here, and I'm going to show you how nice this is, because you can see how, you know, kind of dull and rough that looks, and if you have one of those planers that does 13 inches wide, they are so nice, but this does work in a pinch for the smaller boards. Anyway, you can see kind of how that starts to pull that grain out, and you can really see it nice. So I got it down a little bit. I'll have to do the rest with the sander. Alright, now that I've got those boards cut, I'm bringing it into this part of the shop because I've got some tables here that don't have stuff on it. This was going to be one of the shelves, and this was one of the sides. And you can see, I mean, I ran it through the planer, but this one here is a little wider than the planer is, so this one was tough, but still I took tons of time off in the sanding by running it through that planer. This one here is the top. This is a little bit thicker than the rest of them. That's another side. And that is another shelf. Okay, so now before I glue them together, I have to look and see what I want, because these boards, I mean, look at the difference. This is aromatic cedar, the wood that I'm using, and you get so many reds and whites. So I don't want to have that. I don't want it that white. I kind of want the red with the strips of white, but you just kind of go through and see the look that you're looking for. And also I like to look at the edge also, because not such a big deal on the shelf. I mean, you're going to see the edge, but on the top I'm going to take and router it. So you kind of want a little bit of grain. So like this one, I like this. I like this for the front because this board is kind of has like a little bit of a crack in it. Put that towards the back. And if I flip this around, it isn't much better, but I do get a little bit of reds down in here. So I'll probably run this one like this. And this one is the side, and these side boards are a little bit boring, not a lot of knots in them. Definitely like this side better on that one. There, that doesn't look too bad. This is another side here. I think we'll go like that. Here's the other shelf. This has some nice, I'm getting down there on my boards. You try to get as many of them with knots and everything that you can. No, no. Nope. Probably just like that. But see, this edge would be nice for the front, so let's switch it like that. Then when I router this out, well, with that knot there, though, if you router that knot will chip out. Oh, no, this is the shelf. We're not going to router that. So we're good to go right there. Okay, and last but not least, this is the top. Let's see here. No, I don't want that side. That looks much better. I like the idea that it has these knots in it, even if they go all the way through. It doesn't matter. Let's see for edgewise. That's kind of got a prettier edge. I think we'll do something like that. Now, I don't have enough clamps to do all this at one time, but the nice thing about clamping is you only got to clamp for a couple hours, and then you can pull it and let it dry, and then I can clamp another one because this stuff sets up fast. Most important thing with this is that we get the whole entire surface covered, which means you're going to get your fingers. You can use plastic gloves if you want, but the key is to get every spot covered. Okay, so now we want to find a fairly flat surface here. Then we'll just take and put our clamps on there. Now once you got them fairly tight like that, but before you put your center one in, take and level these in as close as you can get them, and then tighten that down. Just like that. No reason to fight sanding it later if you can get it smooth now. And then just tighten each one of them down, you know, because every time you do it, you just kind of slowly tighten them until they're real tight. As that one is starting to dry, get this top done. That board there is. That one is tough for me to decide. You know what? I think I like it this way better. Okay, so it's the next morning now. I actually stayed up quite late last night and got to do, could only do 2 at a time, so I waited a couple hours, took the first one out, did the other ones, and then waited a couple hours and got that last one glued. So everything now has gotten to dry overnight. I pulled the clamps off. Now it's time where we start doing the sanding, getting them cut down to the exact size, because right now they're all oversized, so we can get rid of all this. So anyway, we'll keep plugging away. When I do the initial sanding on this, I usually run a 50 grit sandpaper. You really just want to take it down and get it even, get the glue chunks off there and everything like that. I like to leave it, not cut it to size before I sand it this first time, because it keeps you from getting any rounded edges, you know, because you have a tendency to push down on the edges, at least on the ends. You know, you can't do anything here, but this will run through the planer again anyway. So anyway, let's get sanding. I have them roughly sanded now on both sides. Some of these, like the sides here, had to be sanded fairly well on both sides, because you're going to see those on the shelving like this here, or that top. The only time you would ever see that bottom is if it was, you know, if you were on the ground looking up, which nobody's going to be doing. So, but anyway, they're roughly sanded now and starting to take shape. Sanding them took hours, and that's where if I had the planer here, I could have, I wouldn't have taken the one that was that wide, but all these would have ran through and it would have just taken minutes. And those things, I don't know if you guys had wood class when you were in school, but they have the time saver, you know, they works the same way. You can take and put big boards through there, and that was really missed. The next step on this is I have to get them all the same width. So I want to go through, and this one is 11 and just shy of a quarter. 11 and 3/16, 11 and 3/16, 11 and a strong quarter. So I'm going to run some of these through the joiner and just to make them a little smaller so we get them all the same size. Alright, so those are now the same width. The top is still wider, which is how I want it. And I'm going to go in and have some lunch, and then we'll be on to the next step. Okay, so now we're going to just get these cut to all the shelves to the same size. Zachary is over making a handle for one of his little hatchets that the handle broke off from, so.
That wedge didn't work. Make another one, maybe out of metal. Making an axe. Doesn't look much like it now, but I almost got the top on there, and now I just have to shape the handle.
Cool. Okay, so we've got all of our sides, our 2 sides cut, the 2 shelves cut. Now we got to figure out the top, which is what everybody will see. I've got 28 and 3/4 my total width of that wood, so I want the top to overhang, so I think we're going to try to pull 32 inches out of this top. Now over here I've got a little bit of a crack, which isn't a big deal. Over here I've got some glue, so I think, but I got this knot here, so we'll probably just take a little bit off of this side and take maybe more off of this side here. Okay, so now all of our main pieces are cut to size. So now I'm going to go ahead with a palm sander and just do some lighter sanding on this to get it a little bit smooth. I don't want to router my edge on my top yet until I've at least sanded some of it. So that's the next step. Now that I have this roughly sanded, I'm going to go ahead and router this edge. I just want 3 sides routed. I'm just going to do a rounded route. I'm not going to do anything fancy because this table gets used a lot, and although this cedar isn't as soft as like a western red cedar or something, it's still a softer wood, and with all the thing, if you get any little cute little corners on there, something could beat on it and maybe crack it. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just round these edges. Afternoon now. I have went through and sanded these with 50 grit, a 60 grit, 100 grit, and now I still have to hit them with a 220. These here are all pieces that I have now cut, ran through the planer, hit them with a 50 grit. Now I'm going to drop down to, I think I'm just going to directly go into 100 grit on these, and you'll see where these pieces all go eventually here. These are to hold up the shelves, these are going to box the outside of it to give it a cabinet look and stuff like that, but we're still going at it here, and a little bit more sanding and I can finally start trying to put stuff together. Alright, so as I sand this down to 220, I'm going to go ahead and start putting it together so that I can take this piece and be done with it, and then pull the other side and just keep going on. So these are going to be my little stoppers for my shelves, like so, and I have measurements of how it is at the other one at the tent, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this one a little bit less, and this one here will be about the same because I'm going to be putting a face on these, so my it's going to change as far as what you can shove in there. So anyway, at least I get to finally start putting it together. Okay, so we finally got the two sides are done, are glued, and ready for the shelves. Well, I'd have to say that's enough for today. I'm going to come back out and do some more tomorrow. Now I have to put the boards around the edges and across the shelving there, and then sand it again and get some finish on here. You guys are going to be really surprised how this color comes out once I put that varnish on. Alright, well today we're going to be putting these side boards on here on each side and across this front to get it more of a finished look. Get that glued, nailed, and a couple of clamps on to clean it up a little bit. And we'll kind of be limited on what we can do today. We need everything to dry. So anyway, let's get these on and see what it looks like. Alright everyone, well now you can kind of see the general shape of it here. I've got all the boards on. Now right up here I had already routed this top, but I want to router all these square areas, but it would have been no way to do it with the top here. So now I'm going to get the router going, and this is kind of the scary part because you like to leave the knots and stuff on this, but when I get to something like this, there's a good chance that router could chip it out. And if it does chip it out, then I'm going to have to replace that piece. So anyway, let's hope that doesn't happen, but I'm going to get this routed and we should be almost done with this bottom piece. Alright, that went pretty good. Didn't have too much chipping going on. So now this will get final sanded here, and then it'll be ready to get the finish put on it. And I'm still going to build a little thing for the top here, but I wanted to get this table done first. I'm in the process here of building another piece that's going to sit on top of that table. I need to have a shelf up here with a big enough space underneath for the bug spray cans and stuff like that. I'll show you that when that's done, but I just had to take these clips off of this camera, and this video, as I can see, is going to get to be so long that I need to shorten it up here. So show you that at the end. Right now though, what we're going to do is I need to get my first coat on this, and this is my favorite part. With this kind of wood, I mean, it looks fairly blah right now. It's got some colors, but watch what happens when I put clear coat on there. When I get done with this, this will have several coats on it, and this first coat is just going to be a rough coat put on here because I'm going to use this as like a sanding sealer. Fill all these pores, I'll be sanding it down again and going through it again. But the neat thing with this stuff is, watch how the colors and the grain come out in this. I'll also use a different brush at the end. This one causes a lot of bubbles, but all I want to do is get this first coat on to get everything sealed so I can get it nice and stained, or I mean sanded, so that it'll be nice and clear. Here's that top piece I was telling you about. Just to save time, I didn't go through the whole thing, but it's basically built now, routed and ready to go. So all I need to do now is get a clear coat on this one, but it needs a lot of extensive sanding yet. Okay, on the bigger project here, it turned out pretty good. I do have to go through, I'm not happy with the top. I don't mind if they have some of these marks that you can see, like right there on the shelves. It gives it an older look, and the shelves will be covered with stuff, but the top, I'm pretty much of a perfectionist on that. This whole top will be resanded down so I can pull all that stuff out. Okay, now you guys can see that's much more acceptable. Took those lines out, it looks really good. Well guys, I'm just cleaning up the shop here. I brought Max and Chester out here to warm up a little bit. It's a chilly night here. Well, Zachary, he's got another project going. He's taking his wheels off his car, and they were, I don't know if they were aluminum or magnesium, but he's putting a black plastic coating on them. So he's been overdoing that project. Okay, so it's the next day now, and what I'm doing now, it's nice and dry, so what I'm doing is I'm going through it, and I'm lightly sanding this with 220 grit sandpaper, and it really smooths it out real nice, and I'll have to do less and less sanding as these coats go on. I'll probably do 6-7 coats on this, but we're going to get one more on today, and right now I'm just doing the sanding. Well everyone, it's pretty much finished. I've got 3 coats on there now. I'll put another 4 coats on it. I brought it into the house here because we have a blizzard warning here in Minnesota, and I don't want to have to keep that wood stove going, you know, for another few days. So here I can just do it, and it'll dry real nice. Thanks a lot for watching the Joe and Zach Survival Channel.